Like the kind of the doghouse.
Okay, Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez at Madison Square Garden for the WBO Super Lightweight title, and this is a big one. You know, not a lot of press around it. There is some recently. We've seen both Taylor and Lopez doing a little face-to-face interview, which they traditionally do ESPN for these big fights. But yeah, a very big one though. Josh Taylor, former undisputed champion, had a very controversial win in his last fight against Jack Catterall, and then you got Teofimo Lopez, who's former unified at lightweight, 135 pounds, even though, I said before, technically could have been undisputed, but because of the ruling with the WBC and the almost upgrading and champions, he didn't get the belt at WBC and wasn't crowned undisputed. However, was at one point had most of the belts in the lightweight division, and since his move up to 140, Teofimo, he's not exactly looked fantastic. He hasn't really displayed the power or the excitement that I usually like seeing with Teofimo Lopez. And you know, in regards to Josh Taylor as well, so if you look through his last few fights, obviously the Jack Catterall fight, but then also the win against Jose Ramirez, beating Kong Song, beating Prograis before that. So some solid wins at 140. And I think, you know, we shouldn't forget how good Taylor can be. Obviously the Catterall fight, I did a video on it at the time. Felt it was a most disgusting decision I've seen in a long time. It was a downright robbery, a comfortable win for Catterall, but Scotland, they're always going to give it to that guy, and it was a horrible decision, honestly. I know people can say, alright, it wasn't that bad, but listen, if a fighter wins a fight, he wins a fight. There should not be any, you know, whatabouts or, you know, he won this round or that round. It was a clear winner, so that is where I say that is a robbery. When it's a clear winner and it goes either way, clear robbery. But, you know, Taylor's still a very good fighter. With Josh Taylor, I'll be honest, I think he's a good fighter. It sounds crazy because considering what he's achieved at 140, I don't think he's a great fighter. You know, talking about him going to 147, I think Spence absolutely butchers him. I think Crawford does a very similar thing. I think with Crawford, I know because they're both at 140 at one point, there is a bit of a storyline there, but I don't really see much of what you can do to those guys. Even a guys like a Boots Ennis, a Conor Ben, Ortiz, you know, these guys coming up. I don't know. I think Josh Taylor is good, but when he was getting talked about up there in the pound for pound rankings, I think it's more for his accomplishment than his skill. You know, I don't look at Josh Taylor and think that he's a fighter who has any intangibles that really make him stand out. Like, you know, Usyk's got the boxing brain. He's very awkward, mentally tires you out. Canelo, fantastic counter puncher, very, very good lateral movement. You know, somebody who has a lot of world class attributes. Crawford, a fantastic finisher, sharpshooter. You know, there's a lot that these guys have, and even Tyson Fury, you know how long he is and the way he can time you coming in. Taylor's got a few things, like he's a very good, from the outside he's obviously a southpaw, so it's awkward, but he's not exactly, I don't know, it just doesn't really excite me, and he hasn't got the skills of some of these guys, and he's a decent puncher, nothing crazy, he's a decent boxer, like I said, he's almost like above average. I mean, he's better than above average, he's good in most things, but he doesn't excel in that one thing, and I think that's probably the why I don't really look at him in the same way I look at some of these undisputed and some of these other pound for pound fighters. But a great fighter, no doubt. Josh Taylor has been a lot of good guys at 140, and you know, the fight with Catterall obviously I think makes people looking at it differently. I do wonder how he is with the weight. That's one thing that was a question in the Catterall fight, and you know, he can only make a weight for so long, and with Teofimo, a guy who's coming into the division, makes you think, will he grow into it? A very close fight, this one, though, I will say. I've been back and forth on this all week, but it's a very intriguing fight, though, nonetheless. But obviously, that's Taylor. And then when you go into Teofimo, and one thing about Taylor as well, excellent fighter, obviously has a lot, but currently still undefeated, which I object to, but you know, he's somebody he's relatively experienced now. Only 19 fights, so I didn't actually realise how little fights he had. Taylor feels like he's been around for a while now, so yeah, that one did sort of take me by surprise. But like I said before, his what he is in terms of a fighter, he's somebody who obviously has been around along the British scene a lot. And age-wise, I don't think he's that old, if I'm not mistaken. He's about 32, so he's in the prime of his career. So not at a bad point in his career, and has again achieved a lot. I think he's not really going to slow down. He's only getting better, so I don't really see much. I can't expect Taylor to really slow down if it's not anything but the weight in this fight. That's the only thing I can see really holding him back, but from him. And then you get to Teofimo. So 18 fights, 13 KOs, 1 loss. If you look at his last few fights, Sandor Martin, not the great winner, split decision. Got the TKO over Campa, lost to Kambosos, beat Lomachenko, beat Comey. So yeah, Teo's a very interesting one. I did a video not long ago, which a lot of people commented on, talking about, is Teofimo underrated? Because it feels like now that he's lost a few and a little bit poor, people are almost forgetting. And also I said as well in the video, because he talks a lot, people kind of want to judge that and think that he's not a good fighter because of it. But Teofimo, do not get this twisted. Teofimo lands flush on Tank, Shakur Stevenson, on Josh Taylor. Any of these guys, they are going to sleep. And not just going to sleep, but they are going to sleep spectacularly. Teofimo has remarkable athleticism and crazy power, and speed's okay. And his size as well. The way he moves is, you can see his back is very broad, and I think that's where a lot of the power comes from. And I think with Teofimo, he just needs to. I think in this fight it's going to be important for him to relax. I do think that he's got a lot of skill to it. I just don't think I think his head is the problem. He gets up in his head too much and has a lot of things going on. And these type of things, again, some people can work around the chaos, some people can't. And I just don't know how he will handle it come fight night. However, irrespective of all that, a very good fight. Teofimo beat Lomachenko fairly, and I don't think it was more impressive what Teo did as well, I think, against Lomachenko than what Devin Haney did, because Teo really asserted himself over him, whereas Haney was doing good in the fight, popping the body, but last few rounds it was looking very, very rough for Devin Haney, and he wasn't able to do that against Teo Lomachenko. I know people talk about the shoulder, but again, there's only so much. He still turned it up in the last 6 rounds. His shoulder didn't seem to be a problem then, so I just think he was afraid of Teo's power. So I think it's a very good fight, this one, though, because you've got two guys who also have a bit of a history with each other, so it makes a very intriguing storyline nonetheless. But as always, I will, in my preview and what I think both fighters should do, starting off with the former unified / possibly undisputed champion, Teofimo Lopez, the takeover. First thing, and this is a big one, obviously, Taylor being a southpaw and Teo being a traditional fighter, a conventional fighter as well. I think there's a few things that it's going to be harder for Teo, but I think one thing with Taylor, he has a relatively high guard. He puts the right glove and very high, but he lowers it, and a lot of times you see his chin is exposed, and with the right amount of timing, I think you can comfortably, find Taylor's chin. And I think with Catchwell being a southpaw, I think that also caused Taylor some problems, and don't get twisted, Teo should not fight as a southpaw. However, I do think that left hook is going to be key for him this one. I think he can do a lot of damage to Taylor if he just figures out how to time the left hook. Personally, I don't know. It's a very weird one with Teo because he has got power in both hands. However, sometimes he forces it. And look at the best power punchers in boxing. Look at Tank. Look at Deontay Wilder. Even though Wilder has known to be wild, Wilder doesn't really land the big bombs until he has you hurt. Same with Tank. So I don't really think Teo should try and force a knockout. I think he should be smart and be more methodical. I think that left hook is going to be very key in it. And my second point, and that is a big one, is pushing Josh Taylor back. Josh Taylor is somebody, he likes to come forward. He's not per se a pressure fighter, but someone who can pressure you and just stay on you for a lot of the fight. And I think pushing him back and making him uncomfortable will be the big one. I think it also suits Teo's game better, irrespective of who he fights, because Teo's a guy who he lands big combinations. He's quite an underrated combination puncher, I think, Teo. And also, people can talk about his power, but he has a lot of skill. And he's somebody, when he has you up against the ropes, he's not the guy you really want to shell up against. And I think that helps Teo a lot, because I think if you focus more on his craft, and I'm not saying he doesn't, but if you focus a little bit more on his skill and trying to almost be a bit more methodical, Not per se like how Canelo fights, but a little bit similar to that. Instead of trying to force a knockout, because it's never going to come if you do that. But yeah, I think with Teofimo Lopez, pushing Josh Taylor back, making him uncomfortable. Ultimately, he's the champion, and you need to try and take the belt from him. And Catchall did that, wasn't enough. But however, this is not in Scotland, this is in NYC, which is Teofimo's town. So yeah, I would expect him to really push Josh Taylor back in this one. And now my third point, and this is one I feel like I say most times, but I do think with Taylor is someone who likes to push a pace and really stick it on you. And I think if I'm Teofimo, the only way you can really stop that is to slow him down. And to slow him down is to go to the body. And Teo's a very hard body puncher. He doesn't really get the credit for it. The fight against Lomachenko, he did it really well. He was able to punish Loma. And there's one round, I think the second round, where he almost had Lomachenko jumping up because he timed him perfectly with a body shot. And I think being patient and going to the body is the key for Teo. Taylor's good, but he's not, I don't think, skill-wise, I actually don't think it's not like he's another level to Teofimo. Like I said, Teofimo's got so much ability and just so many gifts. It's just about using them, I feel, in the right way. But yeah, I feel, like I said, left up being the key for this one. I think pushing Taylor back and punishing the body, I think, is the key for him, because I do think, Taylor's vulnerable and you can catch Taylor. It's not as if he's some swift guy, but the problem that you got is you've just got to be smart. If you're reckless in there, Taylor will pick you apart. So yeah, I think a methodical approach, similar to Loma, but his Loma fight, Teo, but I think just a bit more aggressive, but not being stupid like it was against Kambosos. This has got to be a medium, happy medium. He was too, he was looking for the knockout. He's headhunting too much against Kambosos. You don't need to do that when you've got the ability that Teo has. The only time you need to headhunt, if you really have to, and I don't ever recommend it, is if you're losing all 11 rounds and you need a knockout. Then go for it, but don't do it in the first round. And don't do it in the middle rounds or second, third. Just be smart, bide your time. And I think Teo will have a lot of success in this fight. I think people will give him a lot more respect after this fight, because he's a great fighter. I do believe that. I know he hasn't accomplished all that much in terms of beating guys. He only really has beaten Lomachenko, and he won the belts, but I still feel like he doesn't get the respect. So I think he will after this fight. Either way, that is Teofimo Lopez. Now, getting on to the champion, Josh Taylor. The first thing I will say for Taylor, Teofimo can be aggressive, and you can use that aggression against him. So I'd say the first thing is I think Taylor will look to knock Teo out in this one. Like I said, the bad blood between them does make for that factor in the fight, and I do think Taylor is excellent at timing guys coming in, and he's also, his little short punches just when he's up close, I think, are very dangerous. So yeah, I think timing Teo coming in would be the first one, because I think Teo's aggressive, and like I said, even though I think he should be methodical, I feel like there will be a moment where he does go crazy, and I think that's where Taylor, being the longer guy, can really and naturally, Teo's at 135, Taylor's been at 140 longer. He's naturally the bigger guy, so I think you can time Teofimo coming in. I think you'll have a lot of success in there. And second one, Teofimo's a big guy, and I think one thing about Teo, you saw in the Kambosos fight, mostly because he was fighting crazy, but he gassed out in that fight. And reason being is obviously, like I said, he went crazy, but also Teo's naturally a very big guy, and if you can make him work, if you can get on the inside, bully him a little bit, make him carry his own weight a little bit, I think you will really be able to tire Teo out. And if you can tire him out, as he will, I think once Teo gets tired, he will start swinging with that right hand, and that's when I think the opportunities will open up for Josh Taylor in that one. But yeah, I think making Teo work is a big one. And then the last point I want to make, and I think it's a big one for Taylor considering how long he is, keep Teo at the end of your jab. You don't need to let Teofimo come up close. You don't need to enter him. I think you keep it at your range. You just keep him at the end of the jab. I don't believe Teofimo will have anywhere near the success that he may do if he can get essentially inside Taylor's lead foot. I think that's where you'll see Teo have a lot of success. But end of the jab is where you really need to keep him. Keep him also on the outside of your lead foot, and I think you have a lot more success naturally in that. And I think you can frustrate Teo as well if you can just, I don't want to say fight dirty, but kind of make it a fight where you're making it work. You're able to time him coming in. You can kind of just keep him at the end of your jab. I think he could get annoyed Teo, and then that's when you you open up for the left hand, and that's where you can time him coming in, like I said. So, yeah, those were the things, though, I would say for both men. And then in regards to my prediction on the fight, I've genuinely gone back and forth on this so much. There's a point I really thought Teal, then I really thought Josh Taylor. I'm at a point where I could see both guys getting knocked out. In New York, I could see Teal getting the decision. His dad is talking about how he's a little bit more similar to how he was against Lomachenko, but it's a very hard one, this, because there is so much intangibles. There's Taylor maybe not being the greatest at 140 anymore. Will his chin hold up? Will Teal's power finally sort of translate better to 140? Will he finally snap out of being so crazy in there and what have you? I'm not entirely sure about this. I'm going back and forth. I could switch any moment, but I'm going to be bold here. And I'm going to say I think Teofimo knocks him out in the 9th round. I'm going for the round as well. I don't know if I really believe it, because I do think that Taylor has got the experience, but I just feel Teofimo, there's a lot of rhetoric around him being, not washed, but that he should fire his dad, he's losing his mind, this and that. I don't know. I just feel like Taylor's very vulnerable. If this was anybody else, hypothetically, if this was Terence Crawford at 140, I think Crawford would pick him apart with ease. But I just don't. I think Teofimo has a lot of skill that he just hasn't harnessed yet. And I believe in the NYC fight for the WBO belt against Josh Taylor, I think he'll turn up. And I do think he'll get it done. But don't get it wrong. Taylor wins. I'm not going to say, I can't believe it or whatever, because like I said, I've gone back and forth all week. I don't know. But final pick, I'm saying Teofimo, and I'm sticking to it. So I think Teofimo gets it done. He gets the belt, and hopefully him and Devin Haney, we get that at 140. That'd be a good fight. If Taylor wins, I think you get the rematch with Cattrall, and then if you win, you go up. If you lose, you go up. Either way, I don't think you need to prove much more at 140, to be honest. So yeah, just my picks and my thought for Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. Excellent fight. I'm looking forward to it. They also got the UFC on the same night. Don't know why they keep doing this, but it is what it is. So yeah, Taylor Lopez. Until next time.